Hika kāti tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou e whaiti nei ki tēnei pāpāringa o Waikato-Tainui waka. Te ui manaaki nei i a tātou katoa i tēnei wā. O reira, hika tēnā koutou i tīmata tō tātou nei kaupapa tāinehi nei, taino te ki tēnei wā. Hika tēnā tātou wa tātou nei mate. Huri noa i ngā marae kāinga katoa. Ka titiro ki a koe Linda, ka kite tunu au i tō māma, te hunga ko moe. No reira rātou, mā kōrero he puna wai he utu hia, he wai ke aku kamu. Hoki mai ki a tātou e whai nei i wā rātou nei tapu ai, i tēnei wā, i ka tēnā tātou. It's become clear to me this morning, by arriving a bit early, really appreciating what the kaupapa of our hui is. And I'm reminded, and this is how I'm going to just go with my time with you. I'm going to just tell snippets of kōrero. And the hope is that you will locate messages in there that will be useful for you in your life's journeys. But basically, we're born into our lives. And our lives provide spaces and opportunities for us to take many journeys. And this today is one of those journeys. So this is an important moment in all of our time, and hopefully you'll get some joy out of the moment that I'll be spending with you here at this time. But I'm reminded, Linda, when we went to Nuhaka for the native school project, and the old kroa who whakatau us onto the marae there in Nuhaka, and he was the first one we interviewed. It was a oho moment for me, but also reminded me of just how dangerous some of our projects can in fact be and feel for people. Because I remember, and he wasn't ready to be interviewed first, but it came to the last day, ka tūia ki te mihi kia tātou Linda. And I never forgot the words, the few words that he said virtually at the beginning of his mihi, and he said, kei te redi au I naine. And the thing here is that while he's ready, our bus load wasn't ready, we were on another kaupapa, we were going to this place called home, you know, and it reminded me that he applied this thing called ata. And he worked out all the things that he could koha to the project. But because we didn't give him the time when he was ready, we missed. The project missed his kōrero. And that's a key in everything. We must experience that sensation every day of our lives. But for me, that was just such a learning moment, that old crow. And I always, thing is, you get a moment like that, and you're always journeying back to it throughout forever in your life. Because why was that? Because it hit your heart. Hit you there, and you learn. Ka oho te wairua, oho te ngākau, oho everything. Yeah. So, hang on, I've got to... So, I always think that, in a sense, all I'm saying is that it's good to have some wise words to be a companion with you in whatever you're doing. So, if you go back to... You notice I've got the kai te aki tanga ata he hoa haere. Hey. So the notion of any kaupapa we're into, we always want something that'll keep my heart safe, keep my heart strong, keep my wairua up. And so, so the first one, he ngākau aroha. I saw that in a real sense was when Matatini was in Christchurch. This was the theme of the hui. And I thought, you know, and the thing was on the last day, I think it started to rain. And all of a sudden, all the white raincoats or umbrellas appeared. And I thought, that's just a touch of class. Ngai tahu. And I thought, oh, you know, but that's at the heart of, at the core of their practice was this notion. Tēnei mea te aroha ki ngā manuhiri ko e whakaeke ki rungi a rātou. And I thought, gee, that's just so classy and so Māori. And so unexplained, but so relevant for the moment in time. And so that's that one there. And so it's nice and simple. But I think whakatauki, if they don't talk to your heart, they're at a big distance that you have to travel to get to where it is, to bring it to you. Okay? So if you, because I was listening to people selecting whakatauki, but so I've got to ask the question now, where was your heart in this? Okay? But that's a question that we'll always have forever and ever, hey? The second few words of wisdom, I hara mai tētahi wā mātou nei ori, wā mātou nei waiata, mō tēte. Āta hoki mārire ki oku mātua e moia I hone. But this is a story, and the genesis of that, of those words is this Ngāti Pro woman go taranaki, well, me ki ngā hauhau came into Ngāti Pro. Ka whawhai mātou. Or, yeah, ka whawhai. And so one of our women went, ka haere I tō rātou nei taha, ki roto I a koutou, and te paia tōne ingo. And so Leone, but ka piri ia ki tētahi o ngā toa o Taranaki. Ka haere te wā, ka wehe rātou, ka wehe rā. I roto wāna nei moke, wāna nei kōingoa, mō ngā mea I tipu mai I roto. She wrote this waiata tangi. And so her thoughts are ata hoki mārire. You know, I just want to peacefully go back to the source that where I always felt good. And I guess part of this kōrero here is that there's a lot of signposts that our old people have left. But what I've tried to deliberately do is sit within myself as Ngāti Pro and draw from my very own sources. Now and then I'll go out. But it's just that the thinking, the quality of the thinking that talks to my heart is so real. You know, the notion of hohaere, it comes from, again, Leone, Te Rangihiro, and he talked about tikanga Māori, Kaupapa Māori, Matauranga Maori. I'm putting all of these things because they're the terms that we use today. And he talked about those being an old or a new friend in a new place. And that's what we're doing, today. But we're inviting them. If we don't invite them, they'll always just remain over there. Ka noho tunu ki reira. They don't come and impose themselves, we have to be consciously inviting constantly them into our lives, our daily lives. So perhaps it's a bit chaotic, but I'll carry on. But it's this thing of the heart. So we have to develop a dialogue firstly amongst ourselves as to the real place of the heart in our learning and in our knowing and in our understanding and then in our practice. Because if my heart isn't in my practice, I'll get so far and the practice will dwindle away. Yeah, what am I? Oh, sorry about that. This thing comes up one at a time. But this is these are just some thoughts for you to consider and to take with you, and ask these things of yourself in your worlds, in your context. So because it's simple, we all belong to whānau. The state of the whānau has nothing to do with this thing. Only you can supply the examples and the answers to your pātai. And we're all mokopuna. We can't escape. Those are facts. Those are generic facts for all of us. And then also, he kaitea ki kato tata. Because we've reached the point where it just happens, even if you don't want it to happen. Te ata nei, our moko tuarua is living with us. And so one of the last thoughts we have on our mind as we're leaving the house, Tiakina tō mao nei mōpuna. These are the announcements we make as we're going out the door. Kia pai koutou ki a koutou, tiakina te mōpuna. So you're leaving obligations verbalized in the moment. And everyone there will, they will know, because at the end of the day, there's a reporting session back. And so, but they're practices, And because I think in every time we spend with ourselves or in any kaupapa, the last one there, he aha taku koha ki tēnei wā. Time travels, Time travels, we travel with our time. And and a lot of the times, we actually go totally unprepared to engage and to participate. So there's no pre-preparation for most of us. When we used to do kariki at home in our marae, our grandmother was the matriarch of all the farms and 3 marae that we were always part of. And so in a sense, we didn't have to think. For as soon as her eye turned on into our sort of direction, we knew how our behavior had to be. So she switched on ata. But she was always in the ata state all the time. But she was undertaking her tiaki function. One thing was that the minister of Hikurangi Pāriha was my father. And so she never ever wanted anyone ever to muck up the performance of my father in the marae as he's doing. So that was it. And so we all had to behave. Another thing, you go to the farm, she didn't, it was an unwritten rule, no swearing. And so if you got dogs, you learned how to swear in whistle. Eh? But these are real, eh? So you hear the ngāwariness of tēnei mea te whio, and my uncle was the one, he had a dog who would be a really good listener, but a short-range listening span, eh? And of course, as they began to go, the dog began to go up the hill to get the cows down for milking, it would get to a certain point, and then the whistle would change. Because Uncle was saying, oh, kei tāhu raru tātou I tēnei wā. Because the dog would sort of, he would whistle the dog to go this way, and the dog would be looking in another direction. And the whistle would become sterner and sterner and sterner. The sternness of the whistle indicated the number of swear words that were encapsulated, simply because he knew he was within his mother's ear range. And so there was, everyone had an ata practice when it came to dogs which were a key part of a sheep and cattle farm. But you never heard, kare koe rongo e tēnei mea te kangakanga ki ngā kuri, I aua wā. But it's all of this sort of thing, eh? But anyway, this slide is really, I want you just to ponder on them in your own time, in your own kaupapa, and see how they may work for you. If they don't work for you, replace it with a pātai that's relevant, or a statement that's relevant for you in your context. And but part of this is Māori Marsden. He talks about the notion of us always being centered, and so and it's for us to be centered so that we're living in a sort of orderly way. We got a pattern and a rationale to anything that we're doing. We know what we're doing, why we're doing it, who we're doing it for, and the consequences of doing or not doing. And so, and because he talks about Māori, we want to be sure of touch. And that comes about because there's an inner clarity. So, my heart is at peace, my heart is clear, my thoughts are at peace, in sync with my heart. And so there's connecting. Connections are constantly happening or not happening. Or not happening. Okay. Okay. I've put this up simply because it's a question, and it's a statement, but it's the question, the thought I want to leave with you in this slide is that we all have a purpose for being. In whatever kaupapa we're participating in, we have a purpose for being in that kaupapa. And so it is in the bringing up of now that once Hariata and I became tipuna, automatically we had a new purpose for being. We didn't see it as that at the time, but no, so the notion of the purpose for being. And the idea is that you can apply it into any kaupapa that you're in. And that's what we should do, eh? Because I'm sure that's why, that's what our old people did. We used to sleep with our grandparents every so often, but they were a couple that about 2 o'clock in the morning, kaohora. And one of their practices was that they would practice waiata motete. And so they would do like popo e tangi ana tama ki te kaimā. That's from my rongo whakaata taitanga mahaki sides. Even though you see I'm only from Ngāti Pro according to the program, that's why I said he uri no prorangi. So prorangi just saves me having to name all of them. And so if it's a mystery for you, it'll remain a mystery for you until you go and rangaho it for yourself. Hey. But sometimes, it's like that. But that's the idea of this. So we had e tipu e rea as a motto for our kura, Ngata Memorial College. And it just sort of stayed at a one-dimensional view and understanding of what that actually meant. But that's why we're given long lives, to go on those journeys. So e tipu e rea has always been another journey that's part of my package of my being and of my life. And so, as we, anyway, I'll come back. But basically, it grows as we begin to experience and to see the messages and the practices in the various journeys we engage in our lives. And so your understanding and your interpretation and the usefulness of whakatauki like this can in fact be. Okay? And one of the lines in that whakatauki of Apirana Ngata's where he says, in most places where it's written, he says, ko tō wairua ki te atua. In actual fact, when you have a look at his written word, he says, ko tō wairua ki tō atua. I'm actually saying that because just a month ago, we went back to Atangi and i te pō whakamutunga. The family who had taken on another religion. I said, okay, and they said, well, they'll take the service. Okay, kapai. And then, so then they stood up and they spoke in this other language. None of us at Kapohango and Hiroharama knew and understood. It was the Hebrew language. And so, so there was a lot of sort of shuffling going on in the wharenui. But, what came to mind for me at that moment was the words of Apirana Ngata. Ko tō wairua ki tō atua. They had chosen and selected their atua, and so they were at peace and calm with that. And for me, that was sort of art in action for me. Because I didn't get all fidgety and thing, because I said, kapai, So you let them just do their kaupapa, and let them be at peace within themselves till the next moment that we're going to be entering into. So these sorts of things are I think this is the power of Māori knowledge. But Māori knowledge that talks to a listening ear. A listening ear a heart has a listening ear. And so we've got to figure out how we're going to develop listening ears in our hearts. And what does that require of me? Okay? Yeah, so anyway, better move on. The next 3 slides, I'm just going to talk briefly around how Matauranga Maori can actually show us ways of undertaking our purpose and obligation. So we say we all have a kaitiaki purpose. We all have kaitiaki tanga obligations. And I'll tell you a story now. I asked my uncle, how tēnei mea te kaitiaki? Because we had an experience, Hariata and I, going back to a kaupapa on Hariata's marae, and we were in Whakaatere, o Pōtiki. And anyway, and we saw this dog, wider than our car, cross in front of it. I te moia Hariata, but mao ko tana tuakana I te oho. And anyway, so, we sort of just looked at one another and carried on driving. It was I te pō, it was at night. And anyway, so we went and we had the kaupapa that we went back home for, but something else happened at the marae, at that kaupapa. We went back to a wedding, and on the day of the wedding, Hariata's auntie collapsed and died on the marae. And so that's when we got back to Auckland. Ka patu taku wai ki taku papa, me kapuchi tata. So he came around and we just began to talk. I said, how tēnei mea te kaitiaki? Ko tana whakūtu. His response was, te mahi a te kaitiaki, the job of the kaitiaki, or the work of the kaitiaki. And this is what he said, hei tiaki, hei pupuri, hei arataki, hei tuku, hei tautoko, hei tohutohu. The next part of his kōrero is the key part. Ko tāhau, te kimi ko te hea. Your job is to figure out which one of these positions you're going to have to move to so you can see clearly your purpose and obligations that you will undertake in that time. When I heard that, first thing I said to Hariata was, oh no, I'll go back to go back to Linda's father's kōrero about creative potential. And because it's about the creating of new knowledge and new knowing and new understandings, new ideas for our contemporary situation. But which is inspired by the thinking of our old people, the thinking of traditional knowledge. And so, tēnā koe hirini. See, what happens is that you sort of, one thing I try and do is go to my whānau first and see if they've got any kōrero that's the closest talker to my heart. So my heart will be warmed by their kōrero or be shocked by their kōrero. But then, see, and I guess this is sort of part of the rangahau process mo te Māori. Because we always sort of go way over there to get the best knowledge to help me begin my journey over here. But I'm talking about me, you see? And so part of the, so Hariata and I began to write this thing. So we have Matauranga Maori, but we flipped it around the other way. And it was because of what Tohati. Wirumu's PhD kaupapa, where he talked about Matauranga Maori. Because a lot of people, it's like they're triggers or they're ones who've had the courage before you to go and open the gate to let us, allow us to enter into these new spaces, eh? Because that's what Hirini did. He released me from the thing of just Matauranga Maori. And he said, oh, we can go down this gate, boy. I said, hamai. And so when going down there, Hariata and I had been talking about our own whānau kōrero. So we said, oh, so there's whakapapa, every kaupapa, everything has a whakapapa, ki te Māori. Yeah. And so today we'll have a whakapapa. Yesterday is kōrero whakapapa, mo te kaupapa nei, ngā kōrero te rangi nei, same thing, whakapapa. And so, but what he did was that he empowered, he empowered, he allowed, he gave permission. You know, ane taina, kuhu mai, you know. And so, and that's what his PhD thesis did for Hariata and I. So we began to write on this thing called Matauranga whānau. Because simply, that's the place where you daily practice Matauranga Maori. Where you daily experience Matauranga Maori. And I'm just sort of talking in this way, because, but it came out of when they paku kōrero mai taku papa. And he said, oh, you know. And so after that, we just had another cup of tea and he went. But that moment has remained with me ever since then. What it did allow me to do was we were creating the degree for the Wānanga, and we said that's going to be at the heart and the core of our worldviews. Kaupapa. Tēnei mea te kaitiakita. And so it became that. It's not as easy just, you know, and the thing here is that there are many other positionings we will add in that meets us best in our own kaupapa. But, you know, see, kei reira ngā watata nei, tipu nei, oh, kei te pai tēnā, fire, you know. And so it's that, so the power of the words. And the power of the words that are of people who are close to you, they're actually hugely, they're nuclear in impact. Yeah. So, yeah, so all we're going to do is just sort of, I guess I'm almost out of time, and I'm just getting to ata. But you know, all I've done here is just put up the phrases that I heard all the time in when we were being brought up by our grandparents. The thing is, like, our grandparents wasn't just, we weren't in a nuclear home, but actually they were grandparents of all of us of Taitanga Amate and Rākairo, two hapū within Ngāti Pro. The funny thing is that, like, my grandmother was the automatic grandmother at every christening of every child of those two marae. There was no choice. It was always nanny and someone else. Nanny and someone else. And they went on for years and years and years until she died. But anyway, I'm going to tell 3 stories. 3 little stories, hopefully. But, and hopefully you're getting a sense of what are the messages in there that talks to my heart. Anyway, I was at AUT at the time. And Toby Curtis was our tumuaki. And so I just left Māori Affairs, simply because they devolved Māori Affairs around me. I had nowhere to go. So anyway, but I went to Toby and he said, "Awa Taina, kapai, you got the job, here's your curriculum, see you on Monday." And that was earlier in the week. And then on Friday, I went back and saw him, and I said, geez, Toby, kare tai, when they kaupapa. He said, oh, nobody know him. But you see, the thing was, everything that was guiding and directing that kaupapa was all Western knowledge, all Western knowing. And so my heart refused to take part in it. I'll never forget Toby's words. He said to me, Taina, you got 3 options. 1, come back Monday, pick up the curriculum, go to the classroom, deliver it. 2, there's the door, goodbye. 3, come back Monday and tell me you've got a pathway and a kaupapa you want to deliver in this degree. And that was the thing. So I went home, had a bit of a cry on Hardy at the shoulder. I said, gee, you know that job I had on Monday? Today might be the last day I'm getting paid by that job. But anyway, so we sat at ka kōrero mā. And she asked, and it's good having a person that will ask the right questions. And who were the people who were most important to you? And I said, my grandparents. And then she asked me, and what was a practice that they always showed? And that's where ata came from. Came from just that little paku kōrero. So that was Toby's contribution. So when I went back on Monday, I said, Toby, ko kite. He said, ka pai taina, mahi e te mai. Yeah, go ahead and do it. You know, beauty about people like that, they don't hold you up. They don't straight away set up fences for you to go into, pens for you to go into and perform. He said, mahi. And so that was Toby's contribution. Graham was sort of part of the scene because he was marking my master's thesis. And he'd been, Taina, show me something. And so anyway, I took in the beginning of my ata chapter to him. And so he sat down there. My first chapter I gave to Graham, he destroyed and read. But I never forget Graham because he just opened another level for me to consider the kaupapa from. He said, boy, this is critical theory. And then he just began to draw the things together. And you just sort of someone who's sat in this other world and just began to, even though he whanaunga Māoko Graham, but you moved to another level. And as he began to talk, I said, it's just sort of empowering, It just frees you up, calms you, validates your worth, and all the things that you carry with you into these new worlds. So that was what Graham Graham said, ka pai. All he said to read was ka pai, carry on. And that's all you want a lot of times. And then that uncle of mine that I took, who came up with kaitiakitanga, I had finally written the chapter on ata, and I said I must take it to my uncle to read it and critique it. So ka haere au ki tana kāinga, and I said, ane, taku kaupapa, pānuitia. And of course all he did was a Saturday, bad choice of days, a Saturday, and he only took it and he tossed it on the table. All my hard and carefully deliberated work was just lying on the table beside our cups of tea. And then he said, hara mai, haere tāo ki te tea abi. See, he and I had a ritual already set within our lives. And a year later, I called in again and saw him, and ko wana nei kaupapa. All he said to me was, tō tāua nei kaupapa. Straight away I knew what he was talking about. And all he said to me was, ka pai. Didn't say anything else, but my heart was at peace. And then later on he began to show me, or tell me, of how he critiqued it. And he had a job that took him around the country. And so wherever he was, ka kōrero ia ki ngā iwi. I roto warata nei hui, hea tēnei mea te ata ki a rātou. And then he pulled out parts from my piece, and because it highlights a level of rigour that Kaupapa Māori is actually aspiring to. But he just displayed it to me there and then, I said, oh God. And that's why, but his words when he came back to me, all he said was, ka pai. But then then he goes through and explains the processes, the checks, the balances, because the thing here was, if it wasn't pai, he'd have to defend me in amongst all these other people. And so, it's just sort of, but it's that thing of just being caring, being generous, being thoughtful, being humane, all those sorts of words that you will add to, and you begin to see ata as a valued hōhaere in you and your kaupapa, you and your relationships, whoever with. So it's, Hariata and I, we began to sing pōpō with our mokopuna. But she was the game one, you see, Hariata, because she was game enough to go into the hospital, and amongst all, in Howick in those days, all Pākehā, and our oldest mokopuna is coming into the world. The words of his taitanga mahaki tipuna are the first words that he hears. He hears it from his tipuna kuia, And she talked about, but then the nurses and the doctors in the moment, they're all Pākehā, but they knew there was something occurring here. And they just sort of gave the space, to allow her just to continue. I was sitting in the car waiting for her to come back. But the thing here is that you then, it gives a pattern, lays down a pattern and a reason why you would do that. And so pōpō just became a nightly ritual for us in our mokopuna. So our third mokopuna was the interesting one. She'd say, she'd want to go outside, sing it outside, Hei te whiti mai ngā whetu o te pō. And she'd want, and you could just see her, she sort of, she'd really connect. I te kōrero te waiatara ki ai. And so you have all of these sorts of things that are occurring. And so, but it's like, you just got to do it. Because while it happened in my grandmother's time, my mother never did pōpō to us. They knew pōpō, but they would do it on the marae, you see. But there again, and so there we are in our Howick house in Auckland, singing taitanga mahaki waiata, I runga i Waikato-Tainui. And that's the thing, you see. And so I think it's not always the serious things that will actually awaken you. And so there's a lot of laughing moments, that actually gives you the power and the strength to carry on. So we're going down to Tokoroa, where we now live, and we say to our moko, she was about 3 or 4 at the time, waiata moko, and so she says, she sings, māku rāpea. And so then we begin to talk. Kororo mā ko haria te waiuni a mā. Here we are on a Ngāti Pro waka on a Tainui Waikato Road, going into Raukawa, singing a Ngāpuhi song, taught to our moko by our tūhoe queer. But we know at the end of the day, she'll be sleeping between her Ngāti Pro tipuna. See, so you're playing, eh? Oh, yeah, and you tell her, and they sort of, because it's part of it's part of their life, eh? And they connect to us. So it's some of those little processes that you do. You know, so my article on ata, I sent it to my daughter, my oldest daughter. I said, "Panrite." Anyway, they come up, and her daughter comes to me. And her daughter was about 7, 8 at the time. She says, "Papa." I said, "How?" "I know what ata is, Papa." "Oh, gee, okay." And she said, "Yesterday, I went to help Mum take the clothes off the line." And she said, and there was a bee on the towel. And she said, "I knew where the sting was." And I knew where the sting was, so I grabbed the other end. You know, I said, "Ka pai moko," that's ata in practice. And I said, "How did you get through my article? There's a lot of big words in there." She said, "Oh, well, words I don't know, I just jump over them." You know, so I said, "Oh, but you're getting into their world, eh? Getting to understand." Oh. And then I asked her, "Why did you bother reading the article, Moko?" And that's, for me, that was the pinnacle of the whole moment. She said, "Because I love you, Papa." You see? And then, so you sort of, you know, but those moments, sort of, you have them throughout your life. And they actually, what they do to you. You know, my mother, just before she died, she said to me, haria te mai. She said, "Ko taku tino hoa, ko taku mama." And I, okay. You know, they would never ever talk like that, eh? Then she'd say things like, and I think so. Near the end of your life, you hear these things. Kei te rongo au I ngā wai reka o oraka. And you wonder, you know, and all she was talking about, the sweet waters of our papakain. And, you know, and she just, and as we reflected on her words, because she said it twice, kei te rongo au I ngā wai reka o oraka, and then a short time later, kei te rongo au I ngā kina reka o wharapu. And we realized then that she was actually talking about two special places in her life, and they should be special places in our lives because of the special people who belonged in those spaces, and you are part of them. Yeah. And so just the beginning of this year, we had a Tāmati reunion down in Wharapu. See, and the thing was, we went up the hill, up onto the block of land we have, the farm, and a lot of the Tāmatis are all living away from home. Never been up on the farm, and we're right at the top. You're looking down. You're looking over Hikurangi, Aorangi, all the o ngā pai maunga o te kāinga. And then you look out awa ko te moana nui a kiwa tērā. And then she said, these ones here, they didn't want to move. They just lay on the land. We're right up on the top point of the farm, looking down over everything. And they just wanted just to be with their whenua. No talking, just sort of rolling around, go and talk to little groups, but they just wanted to feel the land. after the whenua, nā o rātou mātua tīpuna. They were the ones who broke the land in. But we were the lucky ones, we were brought up there with our tīpuna. And just to show that it's not racist at all, we were having, stock agents. They come out and check the state of the stock on the farms. And anyway, this Pākehā guy who had been coming for years, and it got to a point where in our kitchen, our grandmother's kitchen, she had a special cupboard, shelves set aside for ngā kai Pākehā. And so there were like canned sardines, canned peas, biscuits. Anyway, so one time we went up and we had a cup of tea, and we were, so our grandmother set us up at one end of the corner table. We had one of these big long tables, because there'd be about 15, 18 of us at every sitting. And then, so we'd be sitting there and we'd have our prau reuna, so she'd cut up. And anyway, she goes and gets this Pākehā kai out for the Pākehā stock agent. And then he says to her, he says to her, mere ana tō mātou nei tipuna. He says to her, excuse me, Mary, can I have some of what they're having? Well, from that day on, the Pākehā kai shelf disappeared. It belonged to everyone. And he always came and sat with us and ate whatever kai we were eating. But it's quite funny how they and you have these little stories, you see, little stories that belong to all the generations, because they learn te āhua o rātou nei tīpuna, not just of me, but of, the ones before me. I realize I'm telling a lot of stories, but part of it is just to get these are the stories that we have, that you know the richness that it is for you and your own. Those are the ones you begin with. And just to top it off, my youngest moko, we go into our whare back at Te Kekia. And so I said, just do the ritual of going around and introduce them by photo, ki o rātou tīpuni. Anyway, so I started with my moko, and I started, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. Anyway, she stopped me after about the second photo I'd showed her. And she said to me, Papa, I know you, I don't know them. You know them, you tell me what you are to them. And of course it's sort of, you sort of think, like your, you think that there's a set pattern of how things must be done. But if it's not going into the heart of that little moko, you've got to find another way. Hey, and she was pointing out the way, you see. Koe I te arataki I ahau. And so I've just began to tell the stories of what I did with this nanny, this papa. And she enjoyed it, But it's sort of little things like that, eh? And I think it just highlights, te ao Māori, te whakaaro Māori, it can just switch, to be meaningful in the moment. So, anyway. But I think our time is up, No, I'm not even halfway. Well, the next thing is, anyway, I'll just... Māori is in everything. Its state depends on what that thing is. So, that's sort of mahana. The IT has sort of squashed it into a smaller balloon. So, mahana. So that's the key thing. When you're ora, what you feel and experience is this thing of mahana. You're alive and you're well and you're energized and you're ready. You're alert, you're wanting to take part. So the notion of mahana, I think, is good just putting some simple words that we hear and experience all the time. Because that indicates the state of being. Yeah. So I guess that's really all I want to say there. Because the opposite to mahana is mātau. So you just replace the word mahana with mātau, and then you've got two positions from which you can analyze the context within which you're in. Eh? Make sense? Just sort of, and then you can just, that's how you would do it, you just change the words. But you see, mahana tells you what you've got to do in order for things to be mahana. So you've got to talk back to yourselves, all the time. So Frere must be part Māori. So, but he just sort of... but that's the idea of that. Oh. Now, this one here is, we all have a home hearth. Okay? And so the idea is that these are my images, so I'll take them home with me when I go. But you've got your own images, And the job is to actually discover those things where you, and the words are there, What does pity look like? So you notice we still have that practice on my home marae, of where we do bread and bog. So, and those pots have been there long before I was born, but they're still undertaking the same purpose. That's the one whānau, which is part of, we're part of them. We're part of the tamariki whānau, and they're the ones who've kept that practice alive on our marae and some other marae as well now. But you see, part of the thing is just sort of having your own images, that displays to you what mahana looks like, in your context. Can I just say, even if you haven't started, you can put a stake in the ground and say, I've now got a mokopuna. This is how, this is the pathway that we're going to travel, and these are some of the signposts we're going to be following. So that's why we just sort of use these simple words. So the notion of pity, and you've got to ask yourselves, well, what are some examples of pity that we do all the time as a group, as a whānau, and explain it. And in your explanations, they'll come alive for you. Yeah. And so you have that. And so that's the consequence. You give it time and you'll have a nice, lovely prau rewana at the end of it all. Yeah. Now this is another quote. It's taken from your father, Linda, a bit, but he was talking about Matauranga Maori. But what I'm suggesting is that we can take ata, replace Matauranga Maori with ata. And so this is what he writes. Matauranga Maori is not like an archive of information. See, an archive of information implies that you're at a distance from the heart of what that thing is all about. But he says it's rather a tool, And so our old people, they've left us a whole lot of tools tied up in our reo, tied up in the practices as applied, firstly by your own whānau. Some parts of your whānau may be dysfunctional, but there are other parts of the whānau that are good. That's where you head to, So, because you're the traveller and you're on that journey. But he talks about, and he talks about those things of, it's a tool to organise information. You've got to figure out how that may be done. So a lot of this is that it invites you to be a hohaere, to pick up the tool and go and apply it, go and work with it. And work with it and your heart. You've got to put your heart in the guiding of the tool. So, but that's what, so he talks about, all those things up there. And I guess you'll get a copy of this sometime. Hey, but that's the idea, you see. So it's a deliberate. Ata gives us time. Ata gives us a space in which we can be ourselves, truly be ourselves. Ata always says, you left your heart at the door again, Taina. Go and get it. Bring it in. Because, really, see, that's the job of the tipuna and the mokopuna. The tip, and so, see, I put the word potential because it's not a God-given right that just because you're a tipuna, you are a holder of something. You might be an empty vessel. Okay. But that's the thing. So that's why it says, well, you've got a responsibility now, Taina. You've got a mokopuna, our mokopuna tuaru. What have you got? 3 years ago, we decided we'd leave Auckland. But interestingly, was our youngest daughter. She's living in Tokoro, and she came up and she said, asked us a question. What are you two doing in Auckland here? So we had a big house in Howard with 2 occupants. And once it was full of whānau. And we had no real swift and easy and glib answer to give her at that moment. And so we said, well, we'll sell up and we'll go home. So anyway, she went away. Okay, that's good. And about half an hour later, she came back with a second question. And why are you going home? And he said, well, you can just come back home when you're ready to come back home, but we'll be there. And then she said to us, and what are you going to leave? What are you going to give to your mokopuna tuaru? See? And so, because of that moment in time, we switched, our whole plan switched, so we're still in Tainui waka. But we're in Raukawa now. But it's sort of these sorts of things, eh? And so at one moment, so etahi wa, ko tō mānei pepi I te arataki a mā. And now the little fella wakes up in our house, in our space, every day now. And so, but that's the idea of it all, right? One thing that we should always have and just truly value this thing of questions. And when I grew up, I don't think I ever asked my grandparents a question. Never ever did. Because it was actually, when I thought about it, because we had uncles and aunties. There were ones between us and our grandparents. So I never asked them the question, te whakahoha ia rāu. But we'd have filters that they would give us responses. And I guess a response was as good practice for them as they work towards becoming tipuna themselves. So mā te pātai, ka hua te koro. And it wasn't until I saw a quote from one of our kroa back at home, and he used that, mā te pātai, ka hua te koro. And sure enough, if you don't have a question, well, karero ka mutu tō tātou nei hui. And so but they're questions because I'm at the center of my two generations. I'm at the center for my mokopuna and my tipuna. And so it's like, what's my responsibility to this generation? What's my responsibility to just... So that's why we fashioned up the e moko questions. What will your time be like, e moko? And so, you know, and that's ata in action as you construct something, and where you've got a clear reason why you want to do it, but allow yourself the freedom and recognizing you have a potential to put something together. So I remember writing that for my master's years ago, but it comes to me virtually every day because all the generations are always sort of are there, even though my old generations, most have gone now, but ko rātou nei kōrero pātai kei reira tō. And so they're always sort of there. You know, and when we were writing the degree, and I'd run out of ideas to put down on, it ended up a process in there. I just sort of quietly say a little karakia to my old people. And basically was aroha mai, awhina mai. Now wake up in the morning, or not even in the morning, but kei reira he whakaaru. And see, when you go, ho moe, or you wake that one who's asleep, hey, you know. So, but then we'd sort of engage, So you got, but you're being fed, from a whole range of angles and positions. But then you've got to have a hoa haere, he hoa kōrero, So, well, and they'll tell you straight if it's, that's a dumb idea. But you see, that's it. You construct. See, and then you construct questions for that generation, but then you've got to construct questions to yourself. Because they're giving you a job and a role that you need to undertake. You see, and it's that sort of thing, So that's the sort of process, you know. So, yeah. But it's interesting because, you know, it's not until you're in it, and then, it comes along and taps you on the shoulder and says, pehe tēnei, you know. And I just sort of, so that's where you talk to Ata, and Ata talks back to you. But it's got a real context, you see. It's got a real, and you can see the people, see the purpose of why you're putting a lot of energy and time and effort into fashioning something up. And these are the older generations, you see. These are the ones, see. So I've taken some quotes from different parts of my kawai whakapapa. Okay, because they're what I think are terms of wisdom, you know. They have, you know, Mitchell, the one who wrote Tākitim, Pukapuhara, he whanaunga ki tō mātou nei pāpa, ki tana taha kahungunu. Okay, and but he said, you know, I can't see that far. You know, but it's, you know, yeah. But yeah, nā ngā ringa tohunga maha koe I rautaka. Basically, you've been fashioned by many expert hands, and minds. So that's the idea there, right? And we just sort of think of all the sources we've gone to. They're part of they're fashioning each and every one of us in our own unique ways. And so that's Mum's quote. I put Mum's quote up there. Kei te rongo au I ngā waireka. And then I tipu ai tātou I ngā turi o tātou mātua tīpuna. And that's from Se Apia Wānanga. But you know, and simply because they're part of your whakapapa grouping, there's, you know, I consider them as part of my mātauranga a whānau. So that's but it's sort of using your own images. Oh, and so Frere, see Frere, so I'm talking context a lot, talking worlds a lot. And so like, you know, Frere's notion for me just, so we're in our context today and we'll be able to say just what exactly our kaupapa is. And that's a world in which we're actively participating. But it's these little beginning words, in, with, of, read, know, you know, and that's why we got to sort of go to, and if our heart communicates openly and willingly with those different worlds, you know you're on a winner, or you're the jockey on a winner. Kapa? So that's, you know, but basically how you can treat it, So with our moko, so our moko tuarua, he's autistic. And so we enter into his world every moment he's with us. And anyway, I've taught him now, he comes and sits with me, and so I put a tray on the table, and set his tray up, and then so he comes and eats, and quite happily, and so we do little things on the table, and he's quite orderly, orderly. Anyway, his mother comes and does some tea for him and just puts it on the table. And of course he sort of, you know, he doesn't say the full sentence, but he says tray, you know, and of course she's looking around wondering what the heck he's talking about. Then she gets it, for her to go and get the tray so he can put his kai on the thing, so that, you know, and it took him to actually teach his mother. We've taught her ever since she was with us when she was a few days old about using a tray wherever she goes away from the table. But she finally got it, I think, just the other night when her son said tray. And she goes and she said, oh, look, gee, he's eating, and it's all tidy. And it's so I said, look, you got his paper towel over there? Yeah. You see, and they got it, So, but you see, like, so you go into these different worlds, Our mokopuna tuarua has taken us into the world of autism. And so tomorrow we've got a hui with the autistic people, you know, because we got to know in order, but then we'll interpret how it's going to be with us and with our moko in our world. And so it's all of those sorts of things that we just constantly do. Why? He ngākau aroha. See, do take it just back to that simple thing. So you know, so everyone is tired, and so he'll come to me because he knows that this is the one with the biggest ngākau aroha in our house. And so everyone else is asleep. Oh, he and I are just sort of thinking. But you know, that's the thing. That's the thing. His heart will talk to the heart of the heart that's ready and open for him in his time. So, you know, and there's no, you know, and we'll figure it out, We figure it out, and then we'll locate some quotes, some whakatauki, just maybe just some lines from a song, a modern song today, but it talks to your heart, to your moko's heart, and the kaupapa that you're in the moment. Because it explains so much more, It's like dressing. And so, Linda, here you are. You know, Linda was one of the, I think this was such a useful thing, not just for researchers, but for social workers. You know, just so, you know, I thought, perfect, Linda. And really, also for tipuna, to remind ourselves we're going into our moko's world. Hey, how do we, hey, we're going into their minds, we're going into their hearts, we're going into their memories, going into their lives. How must I behave? And so kaitiakitanga is just a good positioning that you always take. So it's like that moko tuuru of ours. He's beginning to tohu his mother, Trey. And you see, they'll listen and opens up, And so the levels just reveal themselves of life, And so it's simple, these words are simple, but there's huge complexity in them. And so we've got to have the eye and the heart to be able to read, to understand, interpret, and to act upon them, So that's a sort of... And so part of it is just this thing of kia rangatira, te mahi, kia rangatira, te noho. The old people didn't sort of make big explanation, but it's just a quiet thing. It's basically kia pai te mahi, kia pai te moho, noho, kia pai te whakaaro. All that, but basically, Te Ao Māori has left complete packages for best practice in everything we do, with everyone and in every kaupapa. So you know, you just, and then just goes to another depth again. And that's how it'll be, It reveals itself. Because if you're stuck in this space, it's simply saying to you, you haven't found the door to get into the next space. It'll take you to the next thing. So you've got to become a learner. We have to become learners constantly as it evolves. Ata is evolving into each new time that we take it into. So, you know, yeah. So there's that one. Just that I didn't get rid of it in the time. Oh, yeah. And so the notion of, so you're not receiving wisdom today. You got to go away and figure it out. And then one day, wisdom will be sitting there with you and you'll have a good talk with wisdom of what wisdom has to tell you from that time, from that place, from that moment to now. Ka pai. So koina noho e nei kōrero. Thank you for giving me the extra time. Heka tēnā tātou.